0, 1.
Let's get started.
Welcome to the Amputate to Elevate Success podcast, the show where we uncover how extraordinary leaders amputate what limits them so that they can elevate to what lifts them. I'm your host, John Register, Paralympic silver medalist, transformational leadership expert, and creator of the RE Power to the 3 Resilience Action Model for Transformation, Reckoning, Revision, and Renewal. Now, this show is designed for executives, for entrepreneurs, and for emerging leaders who find themselves in high-stakes transitions and need tools to communicate with greater confidence, clarity, and conviction. I created this podcast to equip leaders just like you with real stories and strategies to amputate what no longer serves your success and elevate into the new levels of leadership impact. Because when we change the way that we communicate, we change the way we lead. Let's get ready to meet our guest. Today's guest is a man who embodies community, connection, and catalytic leadership, Brandon Eldridge. As the executive director of the Pikes Small Business Development Center, Brandon brings over 2 decades of management mastery and helps entrepreneurs grow with grit, grace, and greatness. A proud leader in the Colorado Springs community, he's been recognized as both a Colorado Springs Business Journal Rising Star and an LPP Community Trustee, known for transforming collaboration into community impact. Cyber certified through the SBDC North Star program, Brandon blends innovation, inclusivity, and integrity, empowering small businesses and nonprofits to thrive in today's fast-changing world. So get ready to elevate your leadership as we dive into Brandon's story right after this. Brandon, what is going on? How are you doing, my friend? It is so great to see you.
Mr. JR, how are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic, and thank you so much for lending your voice to our community today. So thank you. I really do appreciate it. And with that, we're going to get off on our first question right now. I always start the question the same way. What have you had to amputate in order to elevate to your success?
Gosh, thank you for that question, and thank you for letting me be on here. And that intro was pretty rad, man. Grit, grace, and greatness. The triple G. That's pretty good, man. Thank you for that. Obviously, I knew that was the question coming in, and your podcast is named after that. And I thought about this, and one of the things that I feel like a great leader has to leave behind is ego. Mm-hmm. When you allow ego to kind of dominate the way you behave and you create kind of a me culture, I think that can be toxic, and I think that can be it's not collaborative. And I'm just somebody who loves working with others. I love seeing other people find their success and find their own voice. I'm a subscriber of all that Stephen Covey stuff, and the extra book is the 8th habit. So everybody knows the 7 habits, but the 8th habit is finding your voice and helping others find theirs. And so when I think about collaboration, I think you have to sometimes leave that ego aside, because maybe your idea isn't always the best one, or maybe the pathway forward isn't the one that you thought of, but rather the one they thought of. When I was managing at Chase Bank, we talked a lot about self-discovery. And sometimes when you move into a self-discovery session with somebody and you're like, I know you really need to get to this place, but your idea of how you get there might be different than my idea of how you get there. And sometimes as a leader, you have to allow people that opportunity to fail forward and explore different ways. And I think that ego is something that I think about a lot in terms of how I lead.
When you think about ego, right? So one of the things we've had lots of leaders on, and that comes up a lot. It's just how do I, let myself decrease so others can increase, so to speak. When you think about that and the self-discovery you're talking about, have you found a tool to allow people to do that?
I don't know if I have a tool per se, but I will say through years of experience managing people, it's become very natural part of my leadership style. At the SBD, so at the Small Business Development Center, we are all about supporting small businesses grow and scale their business and maybe even start their business. We help a lot of startups. And we can only do that if I'm working with other community partners. And for me, I guess that word ego became so much more clear when I started working with other organizations, because there's a lot of competing priorities. There's a lot of people that are trying to capture that consumer. They're trying to get the audience of a lot of folks. And I'm not a member-based organization, but I am about helping as many folks as I can. Yeah. And so being able to find the right strategic partnerships, leaning into the right opportunities that are going to help entrepreneurs, that's hard to do sometimes because, geez, everybody knows a small business. Everybody knows an entrepreneur. And so it's hard for me to figure out what should I say no to. And so when I say yes to things, it's usually because I'm finding a collaborative person, a collaborative organization, and somebody who's willing to share in that workload. So it's not a tool. It's just maybe it's intuition, or maybe just the process of failure through this. Because I've had lots of partnerships that have not worked out. Yeah. But I had to learn what that looked like.
I'm resonating right now. You said, what do I say no to? And there are many folks, present company included, yeah, that I pile so much on. I think do so much of it that I haven't really looked at what I need to amputate or let go off my plate instead of piling the other thing onto it. Yeah. Now, you've been leading in our community for such a long time in Colorado Springs, and the Pikes Peak, SBDC has become a cornerstone for small business and for small business success in the region. You've done some great work in your leadership. What's the driving mission and the driving mission behind the leadership that you have built? And how do you define success just beyond the numbers?
Well, first and foremost, when I was a banker, I always used to tell my team, you have to like people to do this kind of work. If you don't like people, then, maybe having an analytical type job is probably more for you. But if you like people, let's start there. And then if you like your community, what are you going to do to help uplift it and make it a better place? And I kind of alluded to it, but I have an abundant mentality. I don't like that scarcity mentality. And when you think abundantly, that means you have to allow for others to have success as well. And so our mission is really about helping entrepreneurs, if they want the help, to come to us and have a resource that's going to help them with their marketing plan, or help them with their culture in their own organization, or how are they going to embed AI into the next phase of their business plan. And so when we sit down on a one-to-one session and talk about those things with the entrepreneur, it's about how we're going to support you and uplift you. So that's the mission of our work. I do it because I love my community. I love this type of work. I think it helps, ironically, my own ego. I like helping other people. And I actually think about that servant attitude actually can be very selfish, because the more I help people, the more it makes me feel good. So it's kind of a selfish behavior in some ways, because I'm like, I want to see everybody succeed. I want to see a lot of success stories come out of our office. And when you're doing good, then I feel good. And then it's very selfish, because I'm like, oh, I help be part of that, So I guess it's selfish.
I don't know if that's selfish. I think that it's what you put into something, you're going to get back, right? Yeah. If you're sowing that great seed into other organizations, into other entrepreneurs, especially this veteran population, that's just going to naturally come back to you, and it will come back to you, I believe, in abundance. And so that's why, I believe that's a strategy for entrepreneurs, a strategy for business owners, to really look at what are they investing, or what I call breathing life into other organizations, because that life will be breathed back into you. And with that, you have this amazing conference that's coming up. I'm honored to be your speaker for that. So thank you so much for that incredible opportunity to be in front of your community. And as a veteran myself, it's wonderful. I use the veteran entrepreneurship. I'm looking for my little award, but it's not. I think it's upstairs that I have for that I did when I went through a week-long training program to become an entrepreneur. And so I'm really grateful for all of the work that you do for the community. But with that, we have the Veteran Small Group Conference has become a really powerful platform for veteran entrepreneurs. I guess the first thing I would like to know is, how do you go out and find them and let veterans know, A, that you exist, but B, the critical piece of the turn from active duty or the reserve duty into a mindset of entrepreneurship?
Thank you for that question, because this is a big event for us and we do a lot of planning that goes into it. And I'm very grateful you're going to be our keynote. I've known you for a long time, John, and I'm excited that we get to bring your voice to this community, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel lost, and I think veterans need a playbook, and we can offer that to veteran entrepreneurs at the SBDC. And so an event like this is a really great way for that demographic to help find your tribe, to find your people, to say, hey, I'm not alone in this journey of entrepreneurship. I'm not alone as a veteran who served, and now I'm trying to, make a legacy for my family. And, it takes a lot of moving parts. It takes a lot of people to put on an event where you're going to serve 400 people for lunch and have 15 workshops and 70 resource tables and all kinds of moving parts throughout the day. And yes, one Santa Claus. We even have a Santa Claus coming to the event. But, it takes a lot. And I think if we could figure out how to let every veteran entrepreneur know we exist, I probably would be teaching classes on marketing at a national scale, because it's still a challenge for us, even at the SBDC, to make sure that our outreach is intentional, that the right people hear the message. I mean, we have an advisor who goes on to the TAP programs at the Air Force Academy every month. Mm-hmm. We partner very closely with the VBOC, the Veteran Business Outreach Center. And I saw you had Bob McLaughlin on recently.
I did.
And, at Mount Carmel, they host the VBOC. And so there's a lot of synergy in our ecosystem where we're aligned with VBOC, we're aligned with Mount Carmel, we're aligned with Homefront Military Network, we're aligned with a lot of these organizations. And yet somebody will still come to me and say, man, I wish I had heard about you guys 5 years ago. It would have really helped me overcome some challenges when I could have taken advantage of some free resources. That's the thing we don't want, is we don't want you to hear about us 5 years from now. So the event that we're hosting on November 7th at Great Wolf Lodge, like I said, we're expecting 400 people to be part of this. And the reason we host a conference like that is it's a really great way for us to pour back into that community, first off. And then number two, it creates awareness about the work we do. Throughout that day, we have 15 workshops that people can circulate around to and hear from different subject matter experts and get just a little taste of what we do every single day here. I mean, last year, my office served almost 700 small businesses.
Wow.
With at least 3 hours or more of consulting. So we did over 2,000 hours of free one-on-one consulting for businesses last year. So because it's so hard for us to do marketing, and for us, you're not going to find a commercial on TV. You're not going to see me on a billboard. But you can attend an event like this, and you can invest some time into your own business and let us be part of that journey with you.
And we're definitely going to see you on the Amputate to Elevate podcast. So we're going to push this out and make sure.
That's what I'm here right now. That's exactly right.
As I was thinking about this, my wife, we're trying to start her her business up. And she's a flight attendant, and we want to, kind of do an online coursework and things for those that might be in our community that want to become, flight attendants or, in the service branch capacity of that. Is this open for veterans and their spouses, or how does that work? I just love to chat about that too.
Yeah. So the first thing I'll say is you don't have to be a veteran to support veteran entrepreneurship. So be intentional with how you spend your money and how you support your community. The second thing I'll say is this is a great place for veterans and their mil spouses and families and dependents of military to be part of. I'm not a veteran myself. I was an Army brat, so I'm a dependent. But to me, this was a way for me to give back and serve back into this community. My father served 20 years in the Army, And I have a deep sense of pride about that. And so that's why an event like this is so important to me. But we actually have a lot of folks that have never served, are not directly connected to the military, that attend this event and still participate. So even though you may not have been in the military, are you thinking about getting a patent or a trademark? Are you thinking about your marketing plan? Are you thinking about how AI is going to weave into your business plan? If you are already thinking about those things, why not come be part of this community too? So you can come and participate just like anyone else. So.
Love it. Thank you for answering that. I have lots more questions to go. What is one primary mindset that a veteran needs to have if they're like on active duty to think about the veteran entrepreneurship programs that are out there that you are delivering? And before you answer that question, we're going to do a little commercial break. We'll come back with Brandon's answer right after this. Are you ready to help your team amputate what limits and elevate what leads? I'm John Register, Paralympic silver medalist and transformational leadership expert. Through my Amputate to Elevate and Champions Mindset keynotes, I help organizations turn adversity into advantage and build leaders who thrive under pressure. From the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee to Fortune 500 boardrooms, audiences describe these sessions as transformational, actionable, and unforgettable. So if you're looking to inspire your team to commit to courageous leadership, visit johnregister.com and let's elevate your next event together. Back with Brandon Eldridge, Pikes Peak, SBDC. We add the question before that little break there. What is the one primary mindset a veteran needs to have to become an entrepreneur? Brandon.
So I'm going to start by saying, number one, all entrepreneurs need to have a mindset of grit and resiliency. It is not an easy path to be your own boss. It's not an easy path to, sign the front of the check. And when you choose that path, I think that it can be very lonely at times and it can feel very daunting. And it's not like it turns off, right? When you have a baby, you go to the hospital, you give it a name, you sign the paperwork, you get a social security number, and you take it home, him or her home, and you care for it all the time. And when you're not with your baby, you're thinking about it. And that's very similar to the way a business can be for folks is, you give it a name, you give it an EIN number, and then you're thinking about it all the time. And so you don't get weekends anymore. You don't get evenings anymore because you're always doing work. So you got to find, number one, some discipline in your day, but maybe a little bit of structure. And I think this is actually where veterans have an advantage over a civilian when it comes to entrepreneurship. Number one, running a business, actually, you could follow a very strict process. We write you a business plan, and there's a playbook right there for you to move forward. In a business plan, you can articulate who are you serving, what is your most valuable your minimum viable product, where are you going to be spending, how much money are you going to be spending on marketing, what's your cost of goods. We can go down the list with just a business plan. And now you have a roadmap to where you're going. And I love that about the work I get to do is we create a playbook or a disciplined approach to entrepreneurship instead of just, I know that I want to do this thing and I'm just going out and doing it. Let's put some structure behind that so we can help you be successful. The other thing I think makes a veteran entrepreneur successful is oftentimes with that DD 214, you're also probably getting some passive income. Now, that's not always the case, but if you have some passive income at all, imagine the flexibility it allows you to explore and fail. When you don't have passive income, it's very hard to fail because you're relying on that as income. But if you have any sort of passive income, I would encourage you to fail a lot because then you get the chance to see what really is going to work. And the more you fail in the beginning, the less you're going to fail long term. And I think that's something that a lot of veterans can bring to the entrepreneurship field.
That's a fantastic answer. I was thinking a couple things when you were speaking. I was trying to write that on my little note cards here. Okay. I try to do that. The one thing you said is it's hard. And it's a hard passion, right? It's anything that is worth. It's going to be a little bit hard. But when you said that you signed the check, I think that is one of the hardest things to do when you know that people are their livelihood is because of what you do, the decisions that you're making, because you're signing that check for other individuals who are on your team.
Yeah.
I think the second thing that goes along with it is the first time I had to let someone go, I literally stayed up for 2 nights because it pained me, right? And it really wasn't a part of my business. It was actually part of I took a CEO job for a company, and my first person I had to let go it gut me. It was really hard. And it was like right before Christmas too. It was like, dang,
yeah,
it was tough. And so I think those are the 2 things that I took as an entrepreneur. And the third thing you said is the business playbook. There is a playbook that you can have inside of your business plan. You mentioned AI a couple times, generative AI or AI for that's learning. How do you see that with formulating some of the things that can enhance the work that you are doing right now?
Boy, AI is disrupting everything, isn't it, John?
Yeah, it's a major disruptor, but I think I've used it, and I won't get too that far down the road because I really want to hear your answer. It's really helped me as an assistant, like a doctorate level assistant that I have right on my hip for some of the decisions I'm going to make, the strategies that I'm implementing, putting in place, the copy that I'm writing to help me think strategically through some of the business imperatives that I have.
I love that. I want to talk AI, but can I go back for 1 second?
Yeah, for sure.
One of the challenges of being an entrepreneur is understanding the responsibility of having people rely on you. And I want to make one point that you could be a solopreneur and you could be out there by yourself running a business as the only person in your organization. And that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, many people treat entrepreneurship like a job. And if you know that it's maybe building your resume because you're just trying to get experience and then you're going to go work for a larger organization, I actually personally don't have any grief with that. So when they talk about businesses closing, sometimes it's just somebody that started a business so that they can have a job. And that's sometimes okay. But the moment you cross the threshold into having somebody work for you or rely on that for income, it's a new kind of responsibility. And having been in a leadership role at either a corporation or in the military, that gives you a lot of real world experience to prepare for the challenges of writing schedules, managing culture, like all the things that come with that leadership. You got to transition from an entrepreneur to a leader. Maybe AI is one of those tools that can help you kind of think through some of those things, right? There's a lot of startups out there. There's a lot of different platforms. Obviously, we know the big ones, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Grok, the things that are really streamlining things to help create efficiencies in a workflow. I use Chat, I use Copilot, I use Otter, I use Canva, and I have a few others that I use too. But when I think about my day-to-day, what is the hardest thing you have to do every day? And is there an AI tool that maybe can help alleviate some of that busy work? My friend Jonathan Lieber, I call him the godfather of AI. He's been teaching a lot of classes in our community about how to use generative AI for your small business. And he came up with a slogan that says, busy is the enemy of strategy. And what I like about that is what it means is if you're spending so much time answering emails and running analytics to find out your demographic when you could have been using AI in a more intentional way, maybe you can alleviate some of that so you can think more high level about your business and create more revenue long term because you're being more strategic with your time.
The interesting thing about that, I just heard this, so I might get it off a little bit wrong, but it's going to be in the ballpark.
Okay,
So it's going to be a base hit. It's not going to be a home run.
Okay.
Is one of the things is using artificial intelligence to create your data sets, so you can look at the demographics that you want.
Yes.
And a lot of times we just don't know our data sets because we don't have enough people that have been in there. So we can actually use AI to create the data sets and the demographics to give us great information on how this business actually might run. It's phenomenal, and I haven't done it yet. So I'm really interested to learn how to explore that for my own company, for my own business. So getting back to the other point, was another point we wanted to make before we went off on this tangent on the AI, and I think it's around how has AI really been able to, where I was thinking about is writing a business plan.
Yeah.
Right. If I get really granular with it and I know what I want, I can actually run a business plan using artificial intelligence to get me a lot of the way there if I just put the parameters in. How have you been seeing that help entrepreneurs, veteran entrepreneurs, get down the road faster?
I have an advisor on our team, and he said something to me a couple of years ago that you have to earn the right to have a business plan.
Mm-hmm.
And what he meant by that is you need to have, from your brain to a pen to your paper, you need to be writing down your ideas. And the more you spend that time with the actual physical pen, writing down your ideas, the more your business plan is going to be more authentically yours.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that being said, we have a tool that we use at the SBDC called Life Plan. Life Plan is fantastic because you can take all of that stuff that you just put on your paper and you can plug it into the system. And number one, it's going to help you sort through all of your thoughts. I'm writing a book right now and I'm using my AI to help me just organize my thoughts, right? Like I got so many cool ideas and every day I write down something new that I want to add to the book, but then I got to figure out where does that belong. And so AI, I'm actually using it to help me organize my thoughts. You do the same thing with a business plan. Maybe the purpose of writing a business plan is so you can go back to the bank and get a loan or go to a VC and actually have them invest into your business. Because some people use a business plan as like their North Star and some people use it to get access to capital. So let's say it's for access to capital. Well, you need it to be written in a way that people are going to understand it. It's got to sound professional. It's got to tell a story and a narrative. So you might use AI to actually help massage some of the way you write. You might not be a fantastic writer. Maybe your grammar is not the best. Maybe you just like to speed type, whatever it is. You can use AI to help massage what that narrative is. And Live Plan actually incorporates that right into it. And then one more thing, you talked about data analytics. Live Plan actually incorporates a pro forma and has some something called vertical IQ. It's already in the system. So you can actually take empirical data, inform decisions, and actually build out what you think your next 3 to 5 years are going to be at for revenue based off of some data and some AI kind of woven all into one platform. So I love that platform. I'm sure there's other ones out there, but Live Plan is the one I really enjoy.
Love that. And Life Plan?
Live Plan.
Live plan. Live Plan. So everybody watch out for that. And just rewind the tape on this one because Brandon gave some incredible flow of what you may want to consider into your business plan. You can actually use that, drop it into the generative AI and move it forward. Yes, Brandon.
And if you want to access the platform for free, you can actually do that by meeting with a SBDC advisor. So
I love it.
If you're in our geographic area, our advisors are trained and you can access it for no cost. Now, it is a paid subscription plan, but ultimately our SBDCs are incorporating that. Love it.
So the next where I want to go is what are some of the challenges or the headwinds that you're seeing in our current environment that entrepreneurs are facing? I don't know if it might be the Colorado Springs market, the El Paso County area, or just in general for SBDCs that are across our country. And before Brandon answers, we have one more pay the bills and we'll be right back.
Leaders are not made by titles, they're made by stories. In my newly revised book edition of the 10 Power Stories to Impact Any Leader, Journal Your Way to Leadership Success is available now. It's normally $25, but for today's listeners, you can grab your copy for just $20. Give it to your team, your peers, and your students. Inside are 10 of my most powerful personal stories designed to push you toward becoming a better leader. And by the end of the book, you'll have 10 of your own stories ready to share. Order your copy today and elevate your leadership story at johnregister.com/shop. See you over there. Bye for now.
All right, coming back in. So Brandon, what are some of the headwinds that are facing entrepreneurs right now?
I hope one day I'll be like promoting my book on your show, by the way. So I think at a macro level, we're looking at tariffs as still an ongoing problem for some businesses. And it certainly impacts our small businesses. I mean, our definition of that is less than 500 employees, and that's, a large chunk of the U.S. economy. And in the Pikes Peak region, we're no exception to that. We have a lot of manufacturers and a lot of folks that are creating things that they need to either produce offshore, or they have to get their components from overseas. My advice on that is to, number one, always negotiate with your suppliers and make sure you're having a very intentional conversation. I'm finding that, it's still difficult to find some manufacturers in the United States that could reduce that cost for a lot of manufacturers and producers. So I know it's going to be an ongoing challenge, but I also think that it's going to be really valuable long-term for our economy. Now, AI, I think, is the next thing. And we spent a significant amount of time already talking about AI, but I think the reason it's a disruptor or a headwind is because I'm always concerned about cybersecurity. I'm looking into how quantum computing is starting to evolve, and eventually that will be what they call open source. So we might have more access to these quantum computers. And that's going to change things like encryption. It's going to change things like deepfakes and privacy and intellectual property. And so when we talk about AI from the lens of intellectual property and personal information, I think that's one of the reasons senior folks are a little reluctant to fully adopting it into their organizations, is because you have IP that you're probably wanting to protect. And you probably are having sensitive conversations with your employees that you don't want your AI bot to necessarily know. So it's going to be something we have to really navigate and figure out, how do you move forward? If you are a healthcare provider, for example, and you have to abide by HIPAA laws, but you want to have AI, what does a person do? What does a business do? And I can tell you there are ways to do it. You have to download the LLM, you have to put it on a private server, you have to have a policy in place for your employees on how they can use it and which ones they can use. So there are solutions here, but that's why you come to SBDC, so we can talk through some of that with you. I think those are the two big ones. I think that's enough to scare folks for now, but I think the thing that always and forever has been an issue for businesses is access to capital and selling more of your product. And so that comes down to a brand and a marketing strategy. So having a strong branding and strong marketing and, understanding your cash flows and having that access to capital is always going to be very valuable.
I love that. To beat the tariffs and to beat the headwinds of AI, access to capital and selling product by your marketing strategy is the best way to do it. So I appreciate that. So I'm paying strict close attention to it. Have you seen it with inside? I know we talked about this from the folks that have watching your suppliers and always are in the process of negotiating with them. Have you seen it in the service industry? Are there any folks that you may deal with that are in service industry, hoteliers, event planners, professional speakers that are out there that might be impacted by this?
Yes and no. I think overall, when you have a challenged economy, it is going to be harder for service providers. Because if you're not getting an asset that you're holding, and it's something that's more of a service, those tend to be the first things that an organization might cut. So if I'm contracting a consultant to help me, and I'm encountered with budget constraints, I might look at my contractors first from a budget standpoint. So I think we need to be really aware of that. And if you're in that industry where your product is a service, just making sure that you're providing value to your stakeholders and to your clients and having a value proposition of what you really bring. I think empirical data can really help that. So if you can show what the ROI is with your historical clients, how you bring value every time you show up, that can be a very valuable asset. And when it comes time for budget season and they're looking at what cuts they're going to make, they already know they can't cut you because you've already shown that you've made you're more than your weight of, I don't know how to say that.
You're weight in gold, but gold's going down right now in the market. So
right, something to that effect.
Your weight in silver.
Yes.
No, this is really good. It's very powerful, great insights for this, because that you're right. And one of the things that I've used has been a tool inside of my presentations called Talk a Dot. And I've had 11,000 people validate the presentation. And I'm not sure how they actually do the math, but I've used it for like 2 years now. 11,000 people are in there. They've given me testimonials, and I can take that and aggregate that data of all the testimonials and say, what were people, what were their mindsets before John came in, what their mindset afterward, and what are the tangible things that they are doing because of the presentation, based upon all the data of those 11,000 people. And it gives me some really great information, and not just information, but things I can put back in to show the value of the presentation in real-time data that's irrefutable, right? I'm not putting 11,000 different testimonials in there. And so it gives me a raw score. 100% said it was valuable, 97% want to hear it again, and there are 5 buckets of actionable, whatever, five things, inspirational, whatever things are.
Yeah.
So that really helps in a pitch I'm actually doing right now to a client, where 3 of those of this one particular client that's in the commercial real estate business out of New York City, I'm able to share their like information and extract those 3 groups and say, just take a look at this raw data here. And hopefully that will win me the day. They may have their own person they want to bring in, but that's exactly I think what you're saying is make sure that you are positioning yourself in such a way that the data is irrefutable, that you are the person. So when budget cuts do come, that you're not the one on the chopping block.
Yeah, I think about this in 2 other ways too, because we're talking about you provide a service. What is your ROI? I was thinking about we help businesses prepare for a merger or to sell their business, that exit planning conversation. Yeah. And when I was a lender, we talked about some of that as blue sky. Like what is the value of your business without assets? And some of that's blue sky. And so I think about that invisible ROI of the relationships you build, the knowledge that you bring, the resources that you also provide. So selling a business, it's valuable. And I also think about nonprofits because there's something called an SROI, a social return on investment. And I've sat on a few nonprofit boards, and we like to know every dollar we bring in, how much does it actually contribute to the community? And so when you can evaluate and say, for every dollar that's donated, we're putting back out $3 of input back to the community, a nonprofit or a social impact business might want to evaluate that invisible ROI. So it can be done in many ways, but I think in our original context, it's about creating value for your own business so that you become indispensable.
Yeah. When you think not backwards, but forward, maybe 10 years from now, what is it that, and being in, the highest level of success that you can imagine, whatever that means for you, what is it that you need to amputate right now in order to reach that level of success?
We started this talking about ego and what to say no to. Mm-hmm. I've done a really nice job keeping my ego in check. I know I have a deep sense that it's not about me, it's about we. But what I don't always know how to do is when to say no to things. And I keep my plate too full too often. And I need to be really intentional about where I spend my time, how I value our time. We have a lot of partnerships in the community. We brought a lot of value to a lot of entrepreneurs, but sometimes I undervalue what that really can bring mm-hmm. to a business. Mm-hmm. And so I undersell the SPDC even sometimes. So I'm guilty of that. But just knowing when to say no. I actually have an advisor here, Josh Green. He has a really awesome business called Mission Accomplished. And every week he sits down with me and we kind of talk through what value do we bring to the community? What should I be saying no to? How do I know what our lane is so that I can, number one, be more intentional about the things that we do say yes to. And then number 2, maybe I can help the other organizations that do those things better. We've got a lot of really great resources in our community. the Thrive Network, Exponential Impact. We've got 9 chambers. We've got the BBB. We've got some really downtown partnership, Visit COS. I mean, there's so many folks out here helping business and just helping them grow in their lane so that we can be in our lane even better. And so that's what I've got to do over the next 10 years.
Wow, we have been speaking with Brandon Eldridge over at Pikes Peak SBDC. Thank you, sir, for being on today. What great insights. I can't wait to come over there I'll date the show, November the 7th, I think it is, right? November the 7th, over at the Great Wolf Lodge here in Colorado Springs, Colorado, right across from the Air Force Academy and the Polaris Hotel, the new hotel that's been out there. Thank you so much for being on. You have any more closing thoughts of how people can, what's your website, people can find you, and then stay on for a second as I close the show.
Yeah, I hope you'll visit www.pikespeaksbdc.org. We are part of the Colorado SBDC network. We've got 14 offices across the state, and we're part of 1,000 offices across the country. So if you're anywhere in the country, check out your SBA resources like SBDCs, VBOX, Women Resource Partners, and many folks like that. SCORE is another one. The Veterans Small Business Conference is November 7th, presented by Huntington Bank. We love our partnership with Huntington Bank. They've done such an amazing job with us, and we just can't be more grateful for the work that they've done with us. So I hope you'll see us there. And please know that if you're a veteran or just an entrepreneur in general, we're here to help you. We're here to support you.
Thanks, Brandon. Stay on for just a second while I get ready to close out the show and to have some closing thoughts. Okay. Thanks, everybody. And we will see you on next week with another amazing guest. Closing out.
Brandon, thank you so much for sharing your insight and your integrity and your incredible impact with us today. To our listeners, I hope Brandon's journey reminds you that leadership isn't about position, it's about purpose, partnership, and progress. Now, if you loved today's conversation, which I know you did, don't miss the Saturday Leadership Lab, where I'm going to break down 3 leadership levers from this episode from Brandon. And it's where you're going to get the how-to, not just the insight. Join us for only $8.95 for a month and $99 for the entire year to get weekly strategies to strengthen your leadership at johnregister.beehive.com. That's johnregister.beehive.com. Yes, Beehive has 2 eyes. And until next time, I'm John Register saying, go forth, inspire your world. Bye for now.